Good evening and welcome to episode 43 of the Tales of Sigmar podcast. As always, I'm your host Chalmers, and alongside me is my co-host Martin. Good evening, Martin.
Good evening, Chalmers, and how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. We're back behind the podcast. We've been off for a couple of weeks. Well, about 4 weeks now, I think. Maybe a little bit longer, but no, we're back. We're kind of... It feels like normality's resuming, almost.
Oh, don't say that. Cursed.
Have I cursed it already? Oh, no.
Cursed the city already.
But
well, at least we feel like we're making plans and we're starting to get to that point where you can start to at least think about it without seeming like a madman.
yes, and that's the thing. I think we've done 12 months now of being stuck indoors, not playing games. Albeit we've done a few bits on TTS, but I don't mind playing Tabletop Simulator with AOS, but it's not the same, and it is a bit clunky, so I always just use kind of minimum model armies, so I don't have to rack up 40 of the same model on a table and then end up flinging them across from one side to the other by accident. But no, if we're kind of, when's it, May the 17th, we can start actually having games indoors, so it's not long left.
Yeah, and I haven't been brave enough yet to try and do anything outdoors. I've seen a few pictures of people doing it, and we've had some nice days where it seems to be sunny, but we've also had a couple of days where it started off gloriously sunny and then within 3 or 4 hours was snowing. So
yes.
kind of, I feel like every time I see something like that, I feel like I made the right decision not to try and organise something.
Yeah, I've been kind of contemplating it, but it's a bit like you. We've both got kids, so it's like you can't exactly have someone around to play Warhammer in the garden when you've got a 5-year-old running about. So it doesn't really work because it is kind of intended. So no, let's just wait until we can get games indoors.
Yes,
but that doesn't mean that GW hasn't been slacking when it comes to releases and reveals. There's been quite a few.
Yes, they've been busy tempting us with many more new models.
Yeah, just a few. So Broken Realms is in full effect. We covered last episode, it was the previous show that was Lords of the Mortal Realms, I think it was, that kind of teased the Broken Realms Techless book, but didn't kind of go into too much detail. And since then, all the Techless new kind of Lumineth units have been revealed and released, and they all look very nice.
Very nice, yes. Some absolutely fantastic looking models, and it's always great when you see these models on these review shows and you kind of think, I like that, do I like that? And then you start to see them when people have actually got their hands on them and done all these many different. You start to really see how good those models really are, and yes, it's a fantastic looking range, and I can't wait to see them on a tabletop, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of that second wave has just opened up so many different lists and possibilities for Lumineth. It's actually really good. I think I like the first book. I mean, we did that huge Battletome review for it, and I liked it. I like the kind of the Eumetrica kind of a mountain guys, but yeah, it felt like it was still missing 1 or 2 pieces, and then Broken Realms Techless comes out and gives you another 20 new pieces.
Yeah, and it still feels like there's still more to come as well, which I think is really interesting because it's kind of the first time they've done this that I'm aware of, where they keep releasing for a faction, but it still feels like there's more to come out of that particular faction.
I'd probably say the only other one would probably be Stormcast. Like especially at the very beginning of AOS, you kind of had Stormcast, and then only a couple of months later you had the Extremist Chamber, which was like the Stardrake and the Dracoffs, and that was like a completely separate battle tome at the time. I mean, this was way back when they didn't even have points or anything. It was all just chucked in a book with a bit of lore behind it, and that was it. So yeah, I suppose Stormcast is probably the only one we're about to say have lots of different chambers that they've already mentioned that still haven't been revealed. So I'm sure at some point down the line, maybe AOS 3, then one of the new chambers, it'll be time for Sigmar to open up.
Probably. I always dismissed them because it is such a vast range. You know, it's their flagship range for AOS. It's the Space Marines of AOS, as they say. but you're right. There's still a couple of chambers we still haven't quite got to.
Yeah. So, we're going to be going through just some of the reveals that have been kind of done the last few weeks for Broken Realm Kragnos. And it was actually, we're recording on Monday night today, and today was the very first day that they've revealed the new Slaanesh models, which we'll talk about in a bit. But interestingly, in that article at the bottom, it actually kind of ties in the other kind of previewed models. So the brand new Lord Kroak, which looks phenomenal, and the Witch Hunters, and it says that all of those are kind of coming into Broken Realms Kragnos, which was surprising because I thought there might have been a Broken Realms Kroak book. Does that make sense? Yeah, Broken Realms Kroak.
Yeah, it's a big enough name to maybe deserve his own book. You know, when you think about Morathi Teclis.
Yeah, the Seraphon are kind of playing a bit more of a part in the Broken Realms stories as well. So it kind of felt like it was going towards that kind of, them being the, not new poster boys, but almost the next big kind of, like you said, the big kind of covering of it. But by the looks of it, they're all going to be in this Broken Realms Kragnos book, and we still don't know who Kragnos is.
No, who or what Kragnos is.
Yeah, so today's article, they had a little bit of artwork which looked... It was a bit hard to work out what he looked like. He was kind of part Beastman, part... You could almost say Kanofi, but...
If that is him, then... Yeah, I've looked at this picture a number of times. It looks almost like a dog's face.
Yeah.
But with antlers?
Yeah. And that's... Yeah, kind of dog or bear or something like that. Like... Which... I don't know, like...
It doesn't look chaos for me.
It looks more
primeval.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I'm thinking maybe Kanofi. Apparently I've not read this bit yet, but Broken Realms Teclis, it has something about Alariel being worried about something that's coming, which I'm assuming is going to be Kragnos. So maybe it's I don't know, some sort of former wood elf or something along them lines.
Yeah, and he suggested that in the original article, didn't he? He suggested that this is he was from a long time ago, or
like reborn and So it will be interesting to see who it is. Like I think that they have said that he is a brand new character, but kind of.
So it's not an old world.
Not an old world reborn.
Revisaged,
but
no.
Like we've seen in certain parts before, there's always sometimes nods towards the old world with new characters that turn up. Like some of the Stormcast, they haven't kind of particularly said by name, but they've kind of hinted towards, this person could be that person from the old world. So maybe that you get something like that. But yeah, we've seen all of these new models, which we're going to go through in a minute, but they still haven't shown Kragnos. Now, this week they have said that because they've kind of stopped pre-orders for a couple of weeks, I think they've got warehouse software updates and they've got to do stock checks, and I think they're also just struggling with the demand of every plastic crack addict in the whole world at the minute. They have said that they're going to be revealing new models kind of most of the week. So maybe even Friday they're going to finish the week. They revealed the Kragnos model, perhaps?
I'm hoping. I kind of got the feeling that's where they were going with it. Whether it's this week or next, I'm not too sure. But yeah, I'm expecting to see something along those lines. And I suppose the big thing is it going to be a one-off model or is it going to be a brand new race?
Yeah. Because I suppose you saw because I know I keep going back to the Kanofi, but we saw those in Underworld. When was it? Was it Beastgrave?
Yeah,
Beastgrave. And it was like a completely different race that no one's ever seen before. And then Curse City, you got a kind of Kanofi, the archer.
Yeah.
Although interestingly, she did have the Sylvaneth keyword in everything. So whether it's a merger of Sylvaneth and they add these new extra parts into it, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I love these books, so they're kind of the fact that they're adding like breathing new life into some of the older factions and adding like new kind of centerpiece models as well. It's I think it's definitely a cool way, especially if this is the kind of end of AOS version 2, and then we kind of go into version 3 with all of these new models. It should be quite nice.
Yeah, and it might be nothing to do with the Knothi. It could be some destruction or more chaos.
Could be the chaos.
It could be. I
mean, they need a bit of a helping hand.
they need a lot of a helping hand. And I can't see a. It just, because it is a Broken Realms book, it feels like it's too small to have an entire new army in it. But then Teclis seem
quite easily slap in an extra 20 units and rules.
Yeah, so we shall wait and see. Because I'm not really which in the Bellacor one is there a lot of new rules in there?
So Bellacor has.
It's got battalions, hasn't it? But
it's got rules for Nighthaunt. And it has rules for. I mean, it's got the Bellacor faction.
Yeah.
Which is neither here nor there. They've got Nighthaunt rules. They've got a battalion for Seraphon, a battalion for Caradron, a battalion for Zenith. Yeah, there's not many new rules in there.
No, not compared to the Teclis one, which seemed to have like
lots. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even Broken Realms Marathi had brand new kind of temples for daughters and everything else. So yeah, it's. I think some of them they will be just like quick releases, like you said. Bellacor is kind of a few extra bits and that's it, but it doesn't mean for every one of Bellacor you can get a Teclis one. So I suppose it's getting that balance between what they can and can't release during this time.
Yeah, so it will be interesting to see where it goes with it. But I'm enjoying the progression of the story, which has always been something they've been good at for AOS. It's never really felt particularly static, and it does feel like it's starting with a bit of crescendo into AOS 3, which will be great because it does feel like the end of the Soul Wars and the start of something else.
Yes, and it should be, well, everyone keeps on saying June. We were saying this just off air, but I don't know. In this current, when we're seeing lots of limited runs of stuff and kind of limited quantities of pre-orders and stop pre-orders full stop for a couple of weeks, I just don't know how they could hit a June timeline at the minute. I think if everything was back to normal, then yeah, but I think maybe July, August time.
Maybe that's what the stock take is for, as much as anything, calm before the storm, make sure they've got all their ducks aligned before they go for it. But it does feel like there's something coming in the summer.
Yeah. Be quite nice as restrictions lifted straight into a new AOS version.
Absolutely.
We don't have to learn the old rules anymore. It's just crack on with the new ones. So it's almost perfect. But as we alluded to, today we saw the 2 new Slaanesh models, and these are dubbed the Newborn, and they're something. They're kind of part Keeper of Secret, part I don't really know how to explain it.
They've got a very, I'm going to say, Indian kind of feel to it.
Multi-arms and big wings, and I know what you mean. Yeah,
the jewelry and the whole aesthetic of it is very. And I admit I don't know the name of the god that I'm thinking of, but
Vishnu, the one with the multiple arms.
I'll take your word for it.
I need to quickly look at this. Just
Google that.
It is Vishnu with the multiple arms in the Hindu religion. Look at me being all educated.
There you go. It does. It's kind of got that look to it, but obviously with a very chaos taint. So yeah, I think they're fantastic looking models. I just as always with these models these days, I look at the attachment to the base and think, for such a big model, that's not a lot of attachment.
Not too bad. They've got two sides of it with the full kind of cloak. The one thing for me is transporting that. Like, so you've got here we go. Decessor, the Talon of Slaanesh. We'll go with that one.
Yeah,
that's got the kind of almost like the big peacock plume, almost of a kind of massive wing with lots of jewelry on.
Yeah, it's the kind of full.
Yeah,
top, 180.
They said that she is a combatant of power and grace, rarely seen even among the ranks of greater demons. So it sounds like that one's the kind of fighty one. You know what these remind me of? The Eidolons for Idnerf, almost. Not in the look, obviously, but the kind of difference in them.
Concept, yeah.
And then you've got Sinessa. See, that's an easy one. Sinessa, the Voice of Slaanesh. And it says Sinessa derives far more pleasure from the manipulation of the mind than brute physical excess. So yeah, you've got a fighty one and probably a magical. With commanding eldritch magics as easy as a snap of the fingers. So a magic one and a fighty one.
Are these greater demons or are these?
Yeah, so they're greater demons, but they're known as newborns, whatever that means. So they're kind of, like I said, they look like they're kind of evolved keepers almost.
Yeah.
And Sinessa has like two big wings on the sides. I'm still torn about these. I think one of them I need to see in person or see a 360 of them. I'm seeing him to start off with. I'm not the biggest fan of him, and like there's loads of people who love him, and there's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing wrong with me not liking him. But I just think there's too much going on for him. Like they just look like a little, not a kit bash, but they kind of look very busy.
I quite like that. No, yeah, I see what you mean.
People like them, and yeah, I completely understand why they would. But they're just not to my taste at the minute. I mean, there's been lots of models whereabouts I've seen them whereabouts I've gone, nah, I don't like them, and then you see them in person, like, no, I do actually like those now. Yeah. But yeah, they definitely look different.
They do, but it's that thing, isn't it? They look different, but they still look like Slaanesh. Like yes. if you didn't know anything about the model and you just saw that picture and you said, "What is that?" It's Slaanesh Grey Demon.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm surprised that we're getting these. Bearing in mind the Head Knights book has only come out a few weeks ago, with another like 12 kits or whatever it was, and the fact that these aren't actually in that battle tome, but we don't know how delayed Head Knights was, so you could kind of maybe say, well, this was actually planned 5 months after that battle tome, rather than a couple of months. But yeah,
it does seem that Slaanesh are the current poster boys for Chaos as such. I think Khorne were for a while, weren't they?
Well, Khorne's kind of sitting at the back going, can we get some love at some point?
Yeah, because they started off like on the front foot as such, start of AOS. They got all the love, didn't they? And then
they got the mortal range. But yeah, they're kind of. I mean, the demons are a good few years old now. They could definitely do with a new kit. I mean, they got the kind of new plastic flesh hounds, but let's leave it here, not there.
Yeah.
When you see what Slaanesh have got over kind of the last couple of years, it's I think at some point Khorne will feature in this, because obviously Tzeentch has been in Broken Realms Bellacor, Nurgle was in Teclis. Nurgle was in Teclis with some new warscrolls and whatnot.
Yep.
If Slaanesh is in Kragnos, then perhaps Khorne's in the last book.
Slaanesh were in Marathi as well. They started it all off, didn't they?
Yeah, I suppose they were. Yeah. So yeah, it's maybe Khorne will come back at some point. I hope they would, because I love their models, and like you said, they got so much love at the start of AOS, but that's about it. They kind of need a bit of a boost that isn't just 4 bloodthirsters and a flying across the table.
They got their altars, didn't they? And they got the new bloodthirster kits. But that must have been a good couple of years ago.
Bloodthirster kit was End Times when it came out, like Warhammer Fantasy.
Wow.
Yeah,
thought
it
it was
came out
newer than that, but yeah.
So yeah, who knows? Maybe Khorne will be coming in a couple of weeks' time.
They might be what kicks off the AOS 3. It might go old school and go back to Stormcast versus Khorne.
Yeah, full circle with just Khorne and Stormcast. And it's like, what are you on about? We haven't done this before.
Brand new concept.
Yeah. They'll just bring out the old box and just slap a new bit of artwork on the front and go, yeah, that's what are you on about? It's fine.
All brand new. Don't worry.
Yeah, there's no points. You have to wait for those.
Yeah.
But that's not the only thing that's coming in Kragnos. As we already alluded to, Lord Kroak is getting an upgrade.
And what an upgrade.
Oh my god, it's so nice. It is so good. I absolutely love it. Like, there's a few people who said, there's too much going on in it, and it's like, well, no, he's an undead, like, Slann that's meant to be able to control, like, time and manipulation and space.
Yeah.
That is absolutely perfect for him.
It feels right, doesn't it? In the same way that Bellacor, you look at the old model compared to what he's got now, very much the right thing to do. Same way with Kroak.
Yeah.
The old model really, it wasn't quite right for him.
It's like any of the named characters. They need these big but they're meant to be the centerpieces of your army. Like you said, the Bellacor, you've got Archaon, you've got Marathi, you've got all of that, and then like at the current time you've got Kroak on this small little 40mm base sitting on a stone going, hi, I'm Finecast.
Yeah.
So this kit, this is amazing. I'm interested to see whether this will have an option to build a normal Slann in as well, because like having a Finecast Slann and then Kroak they're going to look kind of chalk and cheese next to each other.
They are, but then I think maybe that's right because you don't really want, I don't know, how much. I'd be disappointed if the standard Slann looks like this, just with a different actual frog on it and just a few less bells and whistles. I'm not sure you really want all the different circles spinning around of a standard one or not.
True. Yeah, I suppose, as I've just said, you kind of want it as a centerpiece, and then if you just have a normal one that looks the same, it's kind of loses that that kind of eye-catchingness. So
yeah.
He's absolutely stunning, and I'll definitely be buying him day one, as I'll probably talk about later when we talk about hobby.
Absolutely. And there's a lot going on in this model that I think needs some explanation as well. So I'm going to be intrigued to see the story behind a lot of this.
Yes.
When they finally flesh it out. I'm assuming he's going to get a refresh of rules as well.
Well, yeah, they said in the preview that after all this time, Kroak only seems to have grown in power. This is represented in your games with a new warscroll. But you'll have to wait a little longer before we can tell you more than that. So yeah, he's getting a new warscroll that's probably going to make him even more powerful. Because he was really struggling at the minute in the current meta.
Yeah, he's not doing very well. No. Just looking at the article actually, and you might be right, maybe we do get one because there's a picture of a Slann without the headdress.
Yeah, I didn't know whether that was just...
But he still looks like he's mummified.
Yeah, that's. I was going to point that one out, but yeah, like you said, he's still mummified and looks like Kroak. So I just don't know whether that's an alternate head that you can get. Does it actually say on there? No, it doesn't.
Fair enough. Yeah, I just saw that with the different headdress.
Yeah, no, it says this kit also gives us the option to leave his ornate metal headdress off.
There you go.
So yeah, I think they probably would have mentioned in here that you could make it into a normal Slann, but I have a feeling at some point there's going to be a big Seraphon, not a big Seraphon launch, but a relaunch with plastic Kroxagor and plastic hunting. But like half the heroes are Finecast still.
Yes, he's due a model upgrade.
You look at like, because I love the Seraphon range, and you look at kind of pterodons and bastillodons, and you look at the carnosaurs and the stegodons and skinks, and all of the plastic models are amazing. And then you get to all the heroes.
Not all of them. Let's talk about knights for a second.
Okay. They're not the greatest. Yeah, alright, fair enough. They're not the best.
Other than knights, all the rest are great.
They are a good few years old, to be fair. I mean,
absolutely,
they're still on slaughter bases, so...
Yeah.
Yeah. But the majority are amazing. Like, Saurus Guard as well. Like, that kit is beautiful. And then you kind of go, right, I really want an Astroloth bearer. Oh, it's Finecast. Oh, how about this? Oh, it's Finecast. I want some Salamanders. Oh, they're Finecast. I want Kroxagor. Oh, Finecast. And there's just so many kind of key bits in that army where about said Finecast, and it's like, come on, just release a plastic kit. You could release a plastic kit that's a hunting pack that's Salamanders or Razordons. Like, plastic Kroxagors, you saw what they did with Trogus for Gloomspite.
Yep.
Can you imagine like a kit like that with multiple options and poses and like different stances and grabbing stuff? That would look amazing. And then even if they not nerfed, but if they like killed a few of the old characters that were in Finecast and just released like an Astroloth bearer and maybe like a foot hero, a Saurus foot hero, that would be probably enough. And maybe the skink, what's it, the Starseer?
Still need the skink Starseer. Is the skink priest plastic or is the skink priest
is plastic? So you get it in the start collecting skink box.
Right.
But yeah, like there's not that many that they'd need to do, but suddenly it just makes that range like amazing, like really really nice. Because at the minute you just see everyone using kind of 3D printed models and alternate resin kits from like Mercia Miniatures and stuff like that for Salamanders.
Yeah.
Or like I've done like ages ago, I used to flesh hounds with Ripidactyl heads on and kind of kit bashed them like that, and it's like they look okay, but I'd prefer to have an actual model like plastic kit. So hopefully I'm touching my wooden desk here. Hopefully, touch wood, Lord Kroak is just the start of some new plastic Seraphon.
I would hope so. I definitely would hope so. And, you know, again, they did those new ones for Underworlds with those new chameleon skinks. They look fantastic. So there's clearly some things being explored. Whether or not we get a full release or not, I'm not sure. But you're right. When you look at that range, there's a lot to that needs.
Yeah, they could do one of them battle boxes whereabouts it's like Seraphon versus whoever. And then you 3 Kroxagor, a hunting pack, and some new chameleon skinks. That would just be like, yeah, I'll take 10, please.
And it makes you wonder: are they next up in the? You know, there's quite a few that could be the AOS 3 army. We always assume Stormcast is going to be one side of it, but who's coming the other side?
Yeah. But yeah, it's that Kroak is. Oh, give it to me now. Honestly, please.
Yes, it does look like something you can need to take your time over painting. There's so many intricate little bits here and there.
It's going to be a sub-assembly paint job for sure.
Yes.
Because there's not a chance. Well, there's probably people out there that they can, but there's not a chance you can assemble it like that image and paint it to that standard.
I wouldn't want to try it.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit hard to reach in some places, but that is a very nice model, and it's coming with Kragnos, so hopefully that will be probably May time, I expect. if the next 2 weeks they're not doing pre-orders, it would make sense.
Would do. Well, we're we're a bit of a loss at the moment as to the plans. It's not very clear, is it, as to what's coming, where and when. And I understand that there's a lot going on at the moment and that probably a lot of it is completely out of their control. So I think we just wait and see what happens.
Definitely. And the other models that are coming out are the 2 witch hunters, Galen Vendenst and Doralia Vendest.
Yeah, that sounds as good as I'm going to do it.
About as good as yeah. And they are the brand new, like I said, they're witch hunters, and they're a dad and daughter team, and these look great. Like
they do. They're kind of following the theme of the heroes we saw in Curse City. You've seen a couple with stakes and guns and whatever, ready and raring to go kill some. Well, they say witches, but we assume undead.
And undead and everything, yeah. Everything that's not a human face, yeah. I really like these models. They kind of they look a little bit out of place when they did the video with the rest of the kind of Cities of Sigmar in the background.
Yeah,
they kind of stood out a little bit, and it's like again, are these kind of testing the water for an actual kind of like an Order of Azir faction? Because we've seen, like you said, a few of the models now from Curse City, and now we've got these. It's like, well, does this mean we're actually going to get a proper human faction in AOS at some point? But yeah, no, they're absolutely beautiful models. And I like that you can actually equip them differently as well. So Doralia, I think you can change your head on her.
Yeah, wear a nice hat.
And then I'm pretty sure Galen, the man, you can actually kind of take off the brazier that he's got, or not the brazier, the kind of torch.
Yeah.
And the pistol. I think you can add like a sword on or whatever it is.
Yeah, you put a sword in the pistol hand and then a pistol goes in the torch hand, which is a bit bizarre, but yeah. No,
it's really nice models. Like, they're beautiful, and they just fit. I mean, I'm thinking them two, and I'm trying to think what his name is from Curse City, the other witch hunter.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name.
I'll not try and get his... well, actually, have I got the book in front of me? I've got a book in front of me.
But yeah, all three...
Jelson Darroch.
That's the one. Yeah, all three of them on the table together that like could look pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm intrigued as to how they're going to balance their rules, because, you know, are they going to be only good against... I assume they're going to get rules specific to killing undead, maybe demons.
I don't know, like the witch hunters, so I suppose they'd probably get a bonus against wizards.
Maybe.
Potentially.
Maybe, yeah. And I just, with models like that, when it comes to actually putting them in on the table, like they're great for narrative play, they're great for those kind of things, but competitively, you just don't tend to see them because their rules tend to be a little bit lackluster. You know,
thought that with the Stormcast with the what's it called, the Sequitors that have obviously were out in AOS 2 version 2.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, new Gravelords coming, they're going to be really good. And then I read the scrolls again, and it's like, no, when you play Nighthaunt, I was like,
very specific, isn't it? And that's the concern with these is if the rules make them too narrative based, then you're just not going to see them. But then on the flip side, if they're not narrative enough, then, you know, it's difficult to balance it with when it's just one or two characters like this.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see where it goes, and maybe we get a new faction, or maybe it's just a part of the Cities book. But I never felt the Cities book would ever get another version. I always felt the Cities book was almost just a way to keep things going until they start to flesh out individual.
Yeah, it was a kind of an amalgamation of all that old world stuff that they were just never gonna expand because it was still kind of old world. I mean, you think of what's in there, it's Free Guild that looks kind of fantasy, what do you call it, like the German military style historical look that they have.
Yeah.
You've got like the old wood elves, you've got, like there's so many bits in there that just, for a fact are never going to get a update. And yeah, something like this is that kind of new look of like, here's what the humans can look like in AOS. And then it's like, well, can we get more?
Yes.
Can we get some extra units?
Kind of like, how do they all fit into it all? So again, another interesting conundrum.
Definitely. So some very cool models coming for Broken Realms Kragnos, and as we've kind of said, potentially Kragnos himself. I'd love it to be a massive troll and they kind of have this whole reveal of him, but he just doesn't get a model at all.
Oh, and it could well be just the concept of him and, the impact he has on everything. He's just, I don't know, is he Beastman actually, and Beastman gets something? Is he a Dragon Ogre? I don't think so, but yeah, it just keeps you guessing, doesn't it?
Definitely. But let's talk about Bellacor himself. We've touched on him already. He went up for pre-order on Saturday with limited stock, from what I could gather from third parties. There seem to be kind of limited quantities available for everyone, which was a shame because obviously he's 40k and AOS, so you've got a kind of double the customer base. I mean, it's not a bad thing to have as a company, but when you're a consumer, then it's makes it a bit harder to get him. But his new model is absolutely stunning. It's like we said, the kind of upgrade that you want for a model like that kind of massive size presence on the board. But you got a new warscroll as well, which was, I think, expected. I don't think.
Yes.
I don't think anyone was expecting a new model.
Get it.
Yeah. Here's a new model, and just use the old rules. That'll do. But no, he's pretty beefy. He's got 14 wounds with a 4-up save that is actually unrendable, so it ignores all modifiers, positive and negative. So he's a 4-up non-stop, which that's pretty good, to be fair, for a demon.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not too bad. In the Broken Realms Bellacor book, if you use his allegiance, you can bounce wounds onto others on a 4-up, I think it is. Like other units, and then I think you get like a 6-up save afterwards as well. But I don't think you'll see many of the Broken Realm Bellacor allegiances at all, because they are a bit lacking. Like there's not really a spell lore. I think there's one spell. The artifacts and that are all a bit meh. I think you'll kind of see him, especially as he's 380 points, that he's going to be allied into other chaos lists. He's got, let's have a look, a 14-inch move that kind of degrades as he takes wounds. Like I said, 4-up save, and then his Blade of Shadows is 2-inch range, and he's got 8 attacks to start off with that degrades down to 4 once he's suffered 11 wounds. 3s and 3s, -2 rend 2 damage. So he's become pretty fighty, pretty beefy.
Yeah, I think my one disappointment is that you've got that, and then you've got the other 2 attacks that are only doing 1 attack each. So it's kind of
you've got the claw.
Feels very weighted on the blade.
Yeah, the claw's 3s and 3s, -1 rend 2 damage, and then the tail 1 attack again, 2s and it starts off at 1s to wound, but it goes up to 5 once he suffered like 11 wounds. -3 rend 2 damage, but yeah, like you said, those 2 are kind of like okay.
Bit bonusy, aren't they?
You kind of got the 8 attacks and that's it. It's still pretty good. I mean, he's kind of a bit more fighty than what he was. It's kind of one of those, like, you're not afraid to kind of chuck him into combat now, I think, compared to before.
Yeah, I like the flat 2 damage. It's not a D3 or something that, it's a nice...
Yeah. So yeah, like the previous one was, let's have a quick look. So he had 6 attacks. That was flat 6. So yeah, 8 attacks that now goes down to 4. 3s and 3s, so those have stayed the same. It's only -1 rend and 2 damage. So he had the 4-up unrendable save again, but he only had 8 wounds, and he had a fixed 12-inch move. So yeah, there's a few bits there that have changed, and like you say, he's got the extra 2 attacks, which are both 2 damage as well. So that's not too bad. His Dark Master ability has changed though.
Yes.
So once per battle, at the start of the enemy hero phase, you pick 1 enemy unit. Until your next hero phase, at the start of each phase, including the phase in which the unit was picked, you can roll a dice for that unit. On a 3+, that unit cannot move, shoot, fight, use command abilities, chant prayers, attempt to cast spells, attempt to dispel endless spells, or attempt to unbind spells in that phase. So you have to roll each phase now for that once, like 1 turn. Well, actually, it's until your next hero phase. So if you get double turned, I suppose it goes off twice. I suppose the previous one was kind of the same. Actually, that was until the hero phase, but it's on a 3-up now. So it's
What was it on? Was it 4?
so before. So the old one used to be until your next hero phase, your opponent must roll a dice each time that unit attempts to cast a spell, move, charge, or attack with any weapons. On a 1 to 4, that unit cannot do so, and on a 5-up, it could do as normal. So,
Alright.
It's a you've still got a
66%
chance, yeah.
Yeah, but it's just done slightly differently.
So yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, the fact you've got to roll all the time is a bit of a pain, but I think you had to do it a lot.
Yeah, it's every time you want to do something, basically.
Yeah. So he's not really changed too much. He's got Lord of Torment, which is if an enemy battleshot test has failed while it's within 12 of Bellacor, you can heal up to D3 wounds, which is the same as before. Lord of Torment. That was only 10 inches though, so he's got an extra 2 inches and he's on a much bigger base. So you could say that is a much bigger buff for him. Again, he's got Shadow Form, which we just talked about. Then he's got an Evil Foe, which is exactly the same. -1 to wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by that unit until your next hero phase. So he's not changed too much. He's become a little bit more beefy. I mean, he's got an extra 6 wounds, a couple of extra attacks.
Yeah, and I suppose with the bigger base, it has benefits and drawbacks, I suppose, because you can obviously get a lot more into combat with him. So yes. There's extra wounds will make a difference in that sense.
Is he worth 140 extra points? Probably not. Like 380 points for him.
I think he's the kind of one that you need to build your army around.
Yeah.
At that point, and put some buffs on him and see what you can do. As opposed to, I think the last one was one where you could just slip him in, when you had some points spare.
Yeah, 240 points is a lot easier to fit into your army than 380.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of, especially for kind of some of the lists that he did slot into, it was kind of like, yeah, I can fit him in, that's fine. Now I think, like you said, you have to build a list around him. And even that, it's a bit hard to build a lot of a list around him because, you can't improve his saves at all. You can't really you can't affect that roll on a 3-up. You can't Kairos it because Kairos has got a list of things that you can do now. So yeah, it's, I don't know, he's okay. His model's nice. That's always a bonus. I think I would have wanted a little bit more from him. Like
I said, I felt the melee weapons was a bit lacking, and I thought they might have done some form of ranged attack, even just like a short ranged, I don't know, tail whip or something like that. Yeah, he does. You're going to get games where he destroys everybody with his 8 attacks that are all going to go through and do 16 damage, and he's going to put the Dark Master ability on a key unit and it's just going to destroy it for that particular turn. But there's too much inconsistency there to see him being used regularly.
Yeah. So I think I would have, if his allegiance abilities for like the allegiance that's in that book were a lot better, I think he would become a lot more favourable.
Yes.
And that army would be a lot more favourable. But to be fair, I think a lot of people would just use it in the what's it called, Lord of the Chaos Ascendant or whatever what it was from the Wrath of the Ever-Chosen book. Do you know the one I mean? The one where you can summon demons.
Yes.
And it's kind of a bit like the Bellacor one, but better. It's got a spell lore and it's got bits and bobs in. So yeah, I think you'll see him turn up in that list a bit more. But yeah, if he is what he is, to be fair, you just got to kind of sometimes grin and bear it. I just hope that because this has happened with him, that I know that they've said that Kroak's going to be stronger, but you just got to worry what they do with him.
Yeah, and Kroak's one of those ones though where actually you don't want Kroak to be any stronger. You kind of want him to be a bit toned down, and it's always that balance between, these rules aren't bad rules. It's just for the points.
Yeah.
You've always got that, and I suppose if you make Kroak even more powerful, great. But then how many more points are you going to have to raise him up to make it balanced?
I probably think he's going to go up to about 500. I wouldn't be surprised. That's just me guessing, but it wouldn't surprise me the fact that he's got a bigger base and obviously his spells will hit further now. But...
Yeah, I mean, if they make his warscroll better than it currently is, then yes, you're right. It needs to be up to the 500. But then, what's Teclis these days?
Teclis is 550, is it?
Somewhere
600. Let's have a quick look. Scroll Builder, the best thing in the world to waste time on. Lumineth and Teclis is. I forgot they've got like 37 heroes now. Where are we? Archmage Teclis. He is 660 points.
Yeah.
So
now, I may be wrong because I'm not quite up to date on my narrative, but I'm pretty sure Kroak's a better wizard than Teclis, isn't he?
Teclis was always the village idiot as far as I was concerned. So,
so if they're going to bring it in line, and there's something that says actually Kroak probably is that 500 because he's probably going to be slightly weaker and easier to kill, but actually he should be harder to kill because he's
undead.
He's an undead bloody frog.
Yeah, he's. You got to get that balance of proper point. You need to point him so he can't be allied in. That's the one main thing.
Yeah. It's got to go over 400.
Yeah. But I suppose the one thing with Seraphon is it doesn't really matter what points you are because you've got 60 point skinks to fill your battle line, so crack on. It's like add an extra couple of 100 points. It just means I'm going to just take 180 points of 3 units of 10 skinks and then work out what else I want to take.
Yeah. And summoning is, depends what how he affects summoning as well.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. I just hope they don't price him out too much to a point where it's just, yes, he's super powerful, but you don't see him in games.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even Archeon at 800 points, you still see him in games, but not as much as I think you would do if he was maybe 700 or 600 or
Yeah.
Something around that where you can then fit in an extra couple of bits to like fill out your army. So yeah, it will be interesting to see exactly how different and how much he goes up by, but we'll see. But let's move on, and I suppose we better address the elephant in the room, bearing in mind we're 45 minutes into a podcast or whatever it is. Curse City. That was fun.
Yeah. I think we're relatively balanced. If anything, we're probably pro Games Workshop on this podcast in the balance of things, and I think it's a fantastic box. We were both lucky enough to be able to get our hands on it via retailers.
Yeah.
No handouts. And it is a fantastic box. There's some brilliant models in there. I think to make it a limited edition is the wrong answer.
Right, okay. Let's be honest. It's not. It's always been talked about that it's not a limited edition. How the book even mentions expansions are coming for it, etc. You look at Blackstone Fortress. That's the other Warhammer Quest game for 40k. That's still, you can pick it up now. The fact that they've just gone, no, it's not coming out now, and they've deleted all responses about it being kind of a part of the core set, etc., says to me that something's happened that they've ballsed up on. And there's one of two things. One of three things. One is they can't, with the current pandemic and everything else happening, and they just can't get the cardboard and everything that they get printed from in China, and they can't get it over, and they can't make more copies. There is an actual cardboard shortage in the world, which is not really many people know about it or anything, but being in a distribution company and we make lots of stuff from cardboard, there is a cardboard shortage in the world. But that seems a little bit weird that would be the case, that suddenly, that's it, we can't make anything else. I mean, they did it for Indomitus, for 40k, it was a limited launch box, it was so popular, they then did a made-to-order run. But for this one, they've not done anything like that. They've not even mentioned it. They've literally gone, right now it's not available anymore, and that's it. They've not done a post on the community site or anything to address it and go, look, this is what's happened, this is the reasoning behind it. That leads me on to my thing of number 2, is apparently there's some sort of lawsuit to do with Curse City. I don't know what, but apparently there's an existing game or something that already exists.
Right.
So it could be to do with that. But again, all it takes is a little bit of a article. And there's lots of people kicking off on Twitter, as usual. It seems like every podcast we talk about is people whinging on Twitter and kicking off and just having nothing better else to do. But, I mean, this time I can kind of understand why. Because there's just a complete lack of info. All that GW has to do is post on the community site. The whole point of the community site is that you inform the community about stuff, like they did with pre-orders, and there's no pre-orders for the next 2 weeks. All that they have to do is go, look, Curse City is not going to be a long game because of X, Y, or Z.
And I think I 100% agree with you. However, I wasn't aware of the lawsuit thing, and I think if it is a lawsuit thing, then that might explain their silence. And I think you never know with these law-based issues, shall we say, as to what they can and cannot say. I do think some form of comms, even if it was just something to say, we appreciate we've put you in a really difficult position due to things outside of our control. We can't give you an update at the moment, but please bear with us. As soon as we can, we will let you know what's going on. Just something like that. Even if they don't explain there's a lawsuit and this, that, and the other. I like I say, for somebody who got it, more for the models than for the game itself. I know you've got a copy, and we've said you were going to run some ones, and we would pop around and do that. And,
Yeah.
you know, so I'm probably going to play it a couple of times with my box set, but no more than a couple of times. I bought it because I love the models and I really wanted to paint them all up. There are copies flying around. You know, I know a couple of people that have got extra copies that, you know, but the whole way in which they do it encourages people to panic buy. It encourages people to buy and stick on eBay. It encourages people to buy and sell individually. You know, we were just talking off air around, you know, I had the opportunity to get the second box, and I was thinking, maybe do I get it and get a load of the death stuff, because I'm potentially going to do a Vampire Count's army or whatever they're going to be called, Soul Blight.
Grave Lords, yeah.
Going forward, so getting some more of the skeletons, getting some more of the zombies would be useful. Even if I sold all the characters for £10, you know, it wouldn't cost me much to then have all the death stuff. And £10 for those characters I don't think is exorbitant, because they're fantastic quality. So the box is fantastic value. But I do feel, as somebody who's bought it, a little let down that I was pressurized to buy it instantly. I didn't have the luxury of waiting and choosing whether or not I wanted it or not. It was like, you need to make a decision now, get it. By the way in which we all knew they were going to run out of stock. And then you get to that point where you've got it, and then you've realised that there's going to probably be no support if this is going to be a limited run.
Yeah.
You know. And then you know, even if they came out and said, oh no, don't worry, we're going to. You're like, really, are you? So then it just becomes another 100+ box that I've got sat in the shed, along with all the other 100+ boxes that I've bought and, you know, never got much play out of. And it just feels a little disappointing from that perspective, in that you kind of, it's all hyped up. They get all the hype machine going. There's loads of information, etc. Once you all go out and spend your money, they're just like, haha, bugs.
Yeah.
And well, hang on, right? And then there's all these people kicking off because they didn't get a copy, and yeah, feel really bad for those. I'd be gutted if I hadn't managed to get a copy. And yeah, it just feels like at times Games Workshop, they've come a long way from where they were, but they still just shoot themselves in the foot.
100%. And like the fact that they did all the like painting videos and all of that, and it's like, well, and they gave away like so many copies to like YouTubers and that to review. It's like, oh, why? If this was a limited run thing, why? Like, that makes no sense. It's like I said, it is one of those whereabouts GW do amazing things all the time, and then just every once in a while they just, like you said, shoot themselves in the foot and just cock it up. I think that's the easiest way of putting it.
Just, it leaves a bitter taste in the mouth as such, you know, for everybody involved. You then, like I say, I'm not intending on playing it that much, and then I start to feel a little bit guilty, because maybe there are people out there that, you know, could have had that box and could have played it. On the flip side, I see some people out there who've bought it and then are selling it on eBay for 5 times the price. And you think, well, you know, if Games Workshop didn't do these things, then people wouldn't be buying it and then selling it on for large amounts of money. You know, they're just feeding the scalpers. They're just feeding that part of the market. And I just don't understand why. I genuinely don't understand why.
It's a bit of a weird one. Like, it's just, it seems to be the only thing that's mentioned on Twitter recently. It's just Curse City this, Curse City that, and it's kind of one of them whereabouts, like, I want to do some painting videos for YouTube, but I'm just like, I don't know whether I will do them, but I still have this kind of thing in my head of like, well, I'm only going to hit a certain amount of people now, because if it is a limited thing, then it's only those people that have bought them.
Yep.
And that's it. And it's like, well, I mean, like I said, I mean that's a kind of that's a tiny thing because if people watch the videos, great. If they don't, that's not a problem. But yeah, it's kind of like, well, why is that? Like, does that mean that there's no expansions coming? Does that mean like there's no support going forwards for it? It's a bit of a strange one. Like, something definitely feels like something's happened somewhere to suddenly just nuke it out of all existence. Like, to the point of it's been deleted off the GW website and everything. The only place you can actually find about it is if you go to Games Workshop's YouTube channel and find, like, or the community site and find the painting articles and that, and that's it. And it's like, well, why?
So is the site that was there on the build-up where they revealed a new character per...
No, the Curse City website's still there. If you go to
that's still there then.
ageofsigmar.com/curse-city, that's still there. But on the actual Games Workshop website, there's no mention of it. Like, you try and search for it, like, searching for it just doesn't come up.
Which suggests it's limited run, which suggests they're never going to make any more of it.
But even on limited runs, they always had the listing and it says no longer available on it. Like, this has been completely just wiped from the website.
It's very strange.
That's what I mean. Something says to me there's some sort of legal thing. Because if... I mean, I don't know 100%, but there were a few rumours on Twitter about it. I mean, as much as you want to believe rumours on Twitter. But yeah, if it was a production issue of getting all the components, like, it's not hard to do a little post on the website about this is what's happened. Like, or, like I said, do a made to order run of this is coming, but it's going to take 4 to 5 months. You can get it in Q4, for example.
Yeah, I do wonder sometimes if they every now and then work on the basis of no all publicity is good publicity or whatever it is.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you know, it gets them trending. It gets people talking about it. It's yes, and no matter what we think of them, no matter what we say about them, they're a very successful business. They continually to do this, and so. Yeah, there is a massive element there that says, well, somebody somewhere seems to know what they're doing, even if it doesn't appear to us.
Put it in the context of how popular Curse City was on pre-order day. It was trending in the UK on Twitter.
Yeah.
You need a lot of tweets to get something trending. Like, literally trending UK, Curse City. I was like, what? This is a bit weird. It feels like our little hobby's been infiltrated, but that just shows you how popular it was. And I knew how popular it was going to be because I didn't even go to any kind of normal third-party store. I literally phoned up my local store that, like, I never really order from, but he's kind of hidden away up in Blythe, and I was like, are you getting Curse City? And it's like, yeah, like, no one's interested. Do you want one? Yes, please. Like, that's how I got mine, because I literally messaged little stores around here that are obviously shut at the minute, and they don't have a web store, or they don't have anything like that. It's literally people messaging them, and that's how I managed to get my copy. Well, it's how I got your copy as well, because I messaged the other one in what was it? In Concert, not Concert, Concert, that doesn't really have a website or anything. And they were like, yeah, no, we've got a couple, like, if you want one, let me know and we'll put one aside. And I was like, yeah, please. Like, and that's kind of how we got ours. But yeah, I just knew there wasn't a chance I was going to go to a Element Games or a Alchemist Workshop or Goblin Gaming or anyone like that, because everyone and their dog would be going there. So it is a shame. I do hope that maybe this like week of no pre-orders, etc., like they might put something out in the coming days. Maybe they're just formulating a kind of response to like properly word it. To be honest, I would hope that by now someone would have already wrote something. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's only so much we can go on about it, and like I said, there's only so much that people can go on about it on Twitter. It's kind of it's kind of
It
out of
won't
people's
take long
controls.
before something else sets everybody off. It's the way
it'll
it
be
is.
Kroak's new warscroll, or
Yeah.
like it'll be the next thing. Don't worry. Like,
It's very much enter at your own risk is Twitter.
yeah. So yeah, that is just Curse City Fiasco. In a nutshell, it is what it is. It's just a shame, but I'm sure at some point, give it a year and everyone will forget about Curse City. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely, and which is a shame because they're as I say, there are some absolutely fantastic models in that box set.
And hopefully the Gravelords launch will kind of brush over Curse City.
But it would be a real shame if the models in there never got separate releases, because I think most of the stuff that came out of Silver Tower ended up with separate releases, didn't they?
Pretty much. There was a couple of bits that didn't, so like the Grotbag Scuttlers and I think it was the Skaven Death Runners in there, because they were all on like the same sprue, so I think it was too hard to do them as separate releases.
Right.
But yeah, the majority of the bits did. Like the Gaunt Summoner obviously did. I'm trying to think what else was in there now.
Was the Ogre in there?
Yeah, the Ogre was in there. The Ogroid Thermitarge. Yeah, and then some of the heroes got releases. Some of the other some of the heroes didn't. Some of the other heroes didn't get releases. But yeah, it was a bit of a mixed bag. But again, with some of these, I mean, I think the specific heroes probably won't, because they are all on one sprue.
Yes.
And yeah, I think those are kind of one and done, unless they do a start collecting Curse City. That would be a little bit weird. Yeah, that would be a little bit strange.
That would really troll everybody, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But they were on that different coloured plastic as well, which was
different. Yeah, it was a bit odd, that.
You know what it was? They found the way of the khaki colour. Like,
but there you go.
I just looked at it, built it, and went, I don't need to prime these. They're in the colour I use, so let's crack on. But yeah, I have a feeling some of the bits for the Gravelords especially will come out. I mean, skeletons are getting their own box, and so are zombies, so that kind of covers those. Probably the heroes, because were they all on separate sprues? I'm trying to think now, and I built them all.
No,
they weren't.
It's just the main hero is on a separate sprue, but everything else is just a combined one. So
might not do them
again. Don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they come out with.
Yeah, but we'll see. It is what it is. I don't know when Gravelords are coming out. Like May, June, maybe. I honestly don't know. We were talking about this just before we recorded. Like, it just feels like they're missing a couple of reveals.
Yeah, it just all feels so disjointed, and again, I do sometimes wonder how much of this is poor management on their side and how much of this is actually intentional, almost as if they like the chaotic nature of it all, because it's the age-old thing though, isn't it? If they tell you that something's coming out, then you don't go and buy the old version of it.
Yes.
Right, so I'm guessing sales of skeletons and zombies have dropped ever since they said Gravelords is coming out, because everybody's like, oh, we'll wait for those. So I get that side of it. But at the same time, you've got a loyal customer base. You've got a huge customer base. There is an element of this that says, can I look after us a little bit better?
Yeah, 100%. So we shall see. I'm sure probably next episode when we record, like I said, we're going to try and do this every few weeks now. There'll be another fiasco that's come up and outrage that we'll cover, and yeah, we might just make it each episode we'll make it a kind of thing. Might do a little segment
Fiasco.
jingle. Yeah, Fiasco Gate. Do. There you go.
Fair enough.
Yeah, we'll find whatever the next gate is, and we'll cover it again. But
no doubt there will be.
Let's talk about something a bit more joyful. It's actual events that we've signed up for.
In the real world.
In the real world. In Scotland. I can't
That's
wait.
not really the real world, but
The third world. No, I shouldn't say that.
I did cut all of that out there.
Yeah, we'll get rid of that bit. Yeah, no, we've actually signed up for some physical events. So we've got the Lost and the Damned, which is run by Scott Smith, and that
Yep.
is on the 31st of July and the 1st of August.
Up in Stirling.
Up in Stirling, so can't wait for that one. And that's sold out, I think, within 5 minutes, I think Scott said. Yeah, it was within 5 minutes, so that was a bit crazy. We managed to get 4 of us going. Me, you, Ant, and Tom.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, 4 of us going. So that'll be good, especially with it being then, because I'm hoping that, as we kind of said, that new AOS might be out by then, so...
Yeah, it's going to be one of those ones where it's a bit touch and go. I'm hoping, yeah. And then it gets that whole point, doesn't it? At what point is it too late to then do it? And I hope it doesn't become one of those situations where it's a tournament that is playing AOS 2 weeks after AOS 3's been out.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose points aren't going to really change much. I think you could definitely use. Say if they did a GHB the same time as AOS 3. If AOS 3 comes out, for example, we don't even know whether it's coming out. We're like talking about, it's coming out. Of course.
These are the problems with it,
yeah.
Even though it's not happened.
Yeah, I mean, if a GHB comes out with new points and AOS 3 comes out, you could say, well, actually, we'll keep the points as what they were when list submission was, but we're using AOS 3 rules and missions. Like, I don't see there would be an issue there unless there was something so substantial that meant that you had to use the new points. But
yeah, it depends whether or not AOS 3 is actually 2.5 or whether it's a genuine
reboot.
But,
like, even AOS 1 to AOS 2 wasn't that big a jump. Like, there were a few tweaks here, and I suppose over the time between 1 and 2 you had lots of GHBs that kind of fixed a lot of issues, so...
Yeah, we're not necessarily seeing anything in the Broken Realms books that you look at and go, "Ooh, that's totally different."
Yeah.
You know, sometimes when they're gearing up to another release, there's little bits and pieces in there where you go, "Well, why's that got that?"
Yeah, and then it
keyword
comes out and you go, okay, that's what it was.
Yeah. Although there'll be a description on it that says something completely counter to everything else, and you're like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
What's that got to do with anything? You know, you read it and you kind of go, okay. But then, like you say, once the other rules come out, you go, that's why they mentioned that there.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen any of that in any of the stuff from Broken Realms. So that kind of, again, suggests that it's not a whole school overhaul. And maybe that's, a topic for another day is what would we like to see in 3. But yeah, it is that timing that could prove to be interesting. I'm hoping that if 3 comes out end of June, which would have given us a month to kind of get ready for 3 in order to play it. That would be nice. I don't really want it much later than that, because even if you do go with that, you kind of, nobody really knows what the rules are. And
true. That's not stopped people before.
Well, no, it's never stopped me, but
yeah, just crack on. It just makes it more fun. More time at the bar when you don't know what's going on.
Well, yes.
You get a turn 3 and the light of 1. It's like, have you? Yeah.
Yeah. Can you prove I haven't?
Yeah. So yeah, we've got that one. So I'm looking forward to that, because that is our first kind of foray back out into normality as such. So I think I'm probably going to take my Idnef for that. But that's more for painting competition rather than gaming.
They do look good. So yeah, I have no idea what I'm taking. I had a brief foray into TTS the other day with Tom, and I ran a mixed Zinch list of Screamers and Enlightened on discs.
Okay.
It was extremely fast. Not really that good, but extremely fast. And I've got all the models. I think I need to buy a chariot, and I think that's literally it. So I might go with that, or because there's no way I'll get my squigs finished. The ones I started probably a year ago. It's either
If you wanted to.
Tempting. I did enjoy playing the squigs. It was really good fun. Or it will be Ideneth, because I think Ant's taken his Ideneth as well.
Yeah, because he said that's the only army he's got painted up, I think.
Yeah, so we might all just go Ideneth.
Yeah, let Tom take whatever.
I think he'll be taking Kroak, probably.
Most likely. Yeah, no, I'll definitely be taking Ideneth, because those are probably the best army I've painted ever. So I want to see whether I can compete. If I can't, then I'll just go back to dry brushing and crack on like that. But it's a kind of mishmash of everything. It's kind of got some eels, some turtles, some thralls, and loads of characters and stuff. So
as long as it looks good.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing. I might do a display board for it as well, if I can be bothered. I've got what, 3 months? 4 months?
No, you said it now live on the podcast. You're doing a display board.
Yeah.
There's no way you're cutting this out.
Every time I say I'm going to do a display board, it gets to like the week before and I go, I need to do a display board, and it's the most basic one ever. Whereas this one I kind of fancied a kind of underwater style. I don't really know. I'm just trying to think of. I kind of had an idea in my head, but just actually being bothered to make it is the one thing. Like I've got like 3 display boards I think in the garage, and that's the thing. The moment you use them once, and they just go in the garage, and it's like, well,
that's because you don't stick to the same army more than once.
No, I'm trying to get better at that going forwards.
So then, what are you taking to the next tournament?
Well, yeah. So the second event we've done is Northern Invasion, which is the 27th and 28th of November.
Yep. Normally a August one, but he's moved August, September, but he's moved it out. Obviously with COVID. And...
Yeah. So that one sold out even quicker, I think it was.
That was more or less sold out before it went on sale, wasn't it?
Yeah. So he offered it out to Patreons. If you haven't checked the Northern Invasion YouTube channel for the battle reports, check it out because it is really good. I'm quite enjoying watching those that Stu's doing. Kind of very jealous because I'm just watching it going, I wish I could do that.
Yep. Soon.
Yeah. So yeah, he kind of offered it out to Patreons first, and I actually ended up signing up the Patreon just to get a ticket. But to be fair, I've been meaning to sign up for the Patreon for a while, so this was kind of the kick up the bum I needed. So we got tickets for that, and then who was it? Tom? Was it Tom, Josh, and
Andrew? Yeah.
Was it Tom or was it Ant? I'm trying to think now.
There were a number of people that were...
Tom, Josh and Andrew from the club managed to get tickets through the kind of last hurrah of a rush to get them. But yeah.
They all went on the reserved list to start with, didn't they?
Yeah, so we only opened it up, I think it was for like 32 people to start off with, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then he already had like 8 people on the reserve list. I think he was being a bit reserved. Yeah, trying to be a bit reserved because of COVID and everything. But I think he spoke to not Scott, Steve at Common Ground Games, and kind of they discussed it. And I think because it is November, which by then, touch wood, COVID should be a much lesser issue. Because everyone will be vaccinated by then, etc. I think he agreed that they could open it up to all 40, so they've got all 40 people on the list, which is good.
Yeah.
So that should be good. And we're talking about all taking the same army, aren't we?
Well, we were talking about all going feck, weren't we?
Well, yeah, we're all going to take Flesh Eaters as a bit of a laugh, because I know Josh has taken them, and I think Andrew's taken them as well. And I was like, well, I've got my Flesh Eaters in the cabinet that I've never taken on an event. And then I think Tom was like, well, I quite fancy Flesh Eaters. And then you were like, oh, go on then. Because it's the easiest army to buy as many start collecting boxes as you want and then crack on. But
it's been on my to-do list. It's one of those armies, one of the many armies that's on my to-do list. Tom's got his Bretonnians And
That's
he was
what he
thinking
was
of
doing,
using them as Flesh Eater, which would be fantastic.
Yeah, he was going to ask Stu whether he was going to be
Yeah.
allowed to use that.
So, if he hasn't asked already, and Stu, you're listening, please let him. So, yeah, and so I was quite tempted, but then I had the vampires, and who knows what's going to be out by November, let's be honest.
That is true.
I don't even know what I'm taking to the one in July, August, alone, November. There could be a brand new 3-headed dragon ogre crossed with, I don't know, wizard thing coming out.
I'm sold. Yeah, I'm taking that.
Yeah. No idea what's coming out. So yeah, I kind of we'll see much closer to the time, but I wouldn't be against taking a Flesh Eater's army. It's something that's relatively easy to build, paint up. Like you say, start collecting boxes, and I don't think you can do a relatively good-looking, simple scheme on them.
Well, if you check out the Tales of Wargames YouTube channel, there's a how to speed paint Flesh Eater court video.
I'll check it
Brought
out.
to you by Chalmers. There you go. Yeah, it is one of them. I mean, like I said, I've got the army here, so it's kind of I'd base it, and then there you go. It's fine. But like you said, by then you don't know what's out. And also we've not had events for like over a year, so I'm like, well, I don't know. Like as you kind of joked earlier, I'm kind of jumping between armies all the time. That's what I used to do, but now that we've had a year off, I'm actually like, well, I kind of don't want to do that anymore. Like, I still like taking variety to events because I feel like I always want to play something different, if that makes sense. Kind of like I don't want to play the same thing over and over again because then I'm just like, oh, this is getting a bit boring and repetitive. But it is a massive expense every time to splurge out in an army, and then it's a drain on me to speed paint the army and then take it. And I do have fun with any army I take, but it then just normally goes in the garage or in a display cabinet and then gets taken out once in a blue moon. So I'm kind of like, right, okay, now we're going back into stuff. Let's actually focus on what I'm going to do and stick to an army. So that's probably a good segue into hobby progress. And I'm actually doing Seraphon again. A second fon? No, that doesn't work.
No.
Second Seraphon army. So after Kroak was revealed, I got out my Seraphon army, which I speed painted for your event. Was it your event I took him to? When I got grudged by Alan?
Yes. Yeah, because that's where Alan won Best Painted because he had a plastic dinosaur.
Yes.
And my son
Not best
thought
painted,
that was the best
army,
thing.
Coolest army.
That was it. Yeah. G was judging Best Painted, thankfully, and my child was judging Coolest Army. And of course, as soon as he saw the plastic dinosaur that was being used as a
Dreadsaurian,
he was like, that one. I was like, yeah, but what about all these other? No, that was
like the first one in as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. Went well. That was a great idea. Went well.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alan.
So
that was that event.
Yeah, that was like the week after Howling. So I just painted about 100 bone splitters.
That was that one.
Yeah, and then the week later, Alan wanted a grudge with Seraphon against Seraphon, so I then painted a whole entire Seraphon army with 80 skinks. This was like before the book came out, like the new book came out, so it was old book. So it was like 80 skinks and lots of dinosaurs and stuff. But I was like, oh, Kroak's coming out, get in, I'll get the Seraphon out. And I looked at it and went, ugh. Like, it's like one army that I've looked at and went, don't like that. And I tried like painting it up a bit better, and it didn't work. I couldn't seem to get it looking nice. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I tried stripping the models, and stripping models didn't really work as well. The problem with Seraphon range, half it, as we talked about, is fine cast. So they, to start off with, don't like going and paint stripper. And they're also fiddly and delicate that you don't really want to be scrubbing at them and putting them in stuff because they'll snap off. So
yeah,
I think I might just try and sell it for a discounted price. Because there'll be someone out there that wants it.
Absolutely.
but I've already am in the process of building my new Seraphon army. So I have, because I found a box that still had loads of spare bits from the first list. So I've got, let's have a look. I've got a Carnosaur with a Scarvet that I've just built. I've got a new Stegodon with a Skink Chief and it's all of its party. I've got a Skink Priest, and then I've got coming tomorrow to start collecting skink boxes, 4 boxes of skinks, a Realmscape engine terrain piece, and there was something else, Unitosaurus Guard, and then I pre-ordered the Bellacor Broken Realms, the 2 Stegodons and a Bastillodon box, so I've got a start to it. But the plan with the army is I've already wrote 6 different lists, and this is why I like the Seraphon book. It reminds me of the Cities book a little bit. There's so many different builds that you can get out of it. You can go Saurus focused, you could go Skink focused, big dinosaurs, you could go Pterodons or Rhipidactyls. What are the other ones? You can do cavalry, you can do like so many different lists out of it. So my plan is to just do a huge Seraphon army and just add to it over time to whereabouts I can fill in all of these different lists.
Yeah.
And then I've got this huge collection that I can go, actually, this event I'm going to take Pterodons. This list I'm going to take all the cavalry and Carnosaurs and build it up like that. And that is my plan for the next probably year or so. I'm not, like I said, I've kind of got the skink half of it now. I mean, I still need lots of Pterodons and stuff, but I've got 120 skinks to get through. So I was like, if I can do them in batches of like 20 and paint them like relatively decent, they're not going to be like my IDNF standard or anything like that, but it's going to be a better than speed painted, but yeah, a decent tabletop standard. And yeah, I'm going to do them batches of 20, paint something big, one of the dinosaurs, then do another 20, then then it doesn't become a kind of just a slog to get 120 skinks done. And then hopefully by then Kroak will be out, and then I can add him to the army and paint them up really nicely and etc. I've got some 3D printed Kroxigors coming, so that'll be nice. I'd looked at doing some conversions with like rock gut Trogoths, and some like Saurus Nightheads and stuff, but they looked a little bit weird when I kind of tried sticking the heads on to see them on Photoshop.
Yeah.
Again, I just didn't want Finecast Kroxigor because I've had them in the past and they're horrible. So Matt from the club is printing me he's printing me 6 at the minute, but I might be going back to him to get another 6. So again, that's another list, like just Kroxigor list. Like no one uses it. It's not very good, but actually 2 units of 6 Kroxigor look quite cool in the table. So yeah, that's my hobby. It's kind of focusing on that really and getting getting a proper full Seraphon army out.
Sounds good. Seraphon's definitely. I've still got my Seraphon army, which was the first army I started taking to AOS tournaments, which was Thunderquake, and you know it's a nicely painted army. I keep thinking I'll go back to it at some point because it still seems relevant. Everything in there still works quite well, but just never got around to it. It's again not wanting to sound too negative, but one of my gripes is when you've got an army like that and you're desperate for a new book to come out, and then a new book comes out, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, "Oh, it's overpowered." Mumble. It takes away a lot of
your enthusiasm behind it.
Yeah. You're like, I'm gonna. Oh, I don't really want to play this because it's the new filth, and and it took for me with both Seraphon and the Zinch book. Now the Zinch were. A lot of people still felt they were filth before they got their new book, which I highly disagreed with. But and kind of like you get that build up to it, and like we're going to get all this exciting new stuff. And then it's like it's all broken. You're like So both of those were books where I had armies, and I didn't go to the new.
You don't want to get
they just stayed in the box.
Of
yeah,
everyone judging you.
No, and that's always the disappointment. So I don't know. I might go there. I might, like I say, might do Squigs. There's so many options, isn't there? From hobby perspective, from an AOS hobby perspective, shall we say, I started the skeletons from Curse City because I was thinking of doing a maybe a potential Gravelords Soulblight army, and I kind of tried a scheme yesterday/today, and I don't know. I like it, but I'm looking at it in real life. It's one of those ones where normally when I've painted a model, I paint it, I think it looks fantastic, I take a picture of it, I look at the picture and think, oh, that looks shockingly bad. And I know many other people do this, so, but these ones are the complete opposite. I kind of did it, thought, no, I don't really like that, took the picture, looked at the picture and was like, actually, that looks quite good.
Yeah. It did look nice. Yeah, I mean, you shared it in the WhatsApp group and it looked really nice.
I'm kind of, it's one of those ones where I'm kind of debating. It's been on my desk all day and I keep looking at it and thinking, do I like it? Do I not? And I still can't make my mind up. And I don't know. Maybe it just needs a base to offset it or something like that. So maybe we go with that. But yeah, that's my plan at the moment, is to chunk my way through the Curse City stuff and decide whether or not I want to go down the death route. Because, like I say, I've got plenty of painted armies. I did look at the new Nighthaunt model.
Yeah.
And the rules looked all right for it. So I've got my Nighthaunt in my display cabinet. I could always get them back out and give them another run. So there are options there, but I thought I'd try and chunk through some of the Curse City stuff. I'll probably do a unit, then a character, then a unit, then a character, just to kind of break it up. But that's probably me at the moment.
Yeah. No, it's like you say, you're kind of in that lull until Gravelords comes out of like, well, do I want to get the rest of this and do it? But I think, like you said, painting up Curse City is definitely the way to kind of get yourself going, if that makes sense, for kind of a new army. But yeah, with plenty of stuff already done. I mean, I'm kind of like looking at half the stuff I've got painted up. I'm like, I might sell some of these because, like I said, it's did so many armies and then just gone right, okay, in the cabinet or in the box. But realistically, if I actually sold them, then I'm making a bit more space and can fund kind of future projects or anything like that. And it's kind of, we are coming out of the lockdown now, which was nice, and we're going to have games and it's going to be great. But I mean, we always kind of play for events, if that makes sense. So until those events start properly kind of coming up near towards us, it's still going to be kind of a bit slow, if that makes does that make sense?
Absolutely. No, it is. And, we kind of, without going into detail, there are other games that have caught our eye recently as well. And I think, for me personally, AOS before lockdown was the primary game and everything was AOS. And had some other stuff that I like to play every now and then, but it was all AOS. I think now AOS is going to have to share its hobby time with another game. Which is fine, but it does kind of put a slightly different slant on it. I never went into tournaments expecting to win, but I always went into them wanting to do well. I was quite pleased that 2 years in a row, Northern Masters, when we were allowed to do it, I qualified and went up for that. It kind of like, I don't expect Northern Masters to run this year at all. So,
No.
That combined with, like I say, sharing its time, combined with the way things are, and the fact that it's probably only going to be maybe 3 tournaments at most this year. I can't, we've got the 2 that we've got in. I can't see myself fitting in many more than one more AOS one. It kind of changes the perspective on things slightly. So I don't know. I say all this, and then I'll probably release something. I'll go, I need that entire army and drop, 400-500 quid on a brand new army at some point. But at the moment, because we're not physically playing, there's just there's no need for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll wait and see how that pans out.
Definitely. I'm sure next episode we'll be talking about something completely different that we've been doing hobby in, but
Absolutely.
we will wait and see. No, I am going to make a conscious effort of trying to stick the Seraphon and trying to do. I've been watching loads of YouTube videos recently to try and do some like swamp style bases, like with like realistic water and overgrown ferns and stuff like that. So trying to kind of again make another concentrated effort of upping basing and stuff rather than just here's a bit of cork and some sand and a few grass tufts. So that's going to be an experiment. I think it's going to take a little while to work out how to do stuff. Like I said, I've kind of watched a few videos, but I need to just get a few test bases and then just play around with them. I'm going to be using like some of the I think it's AK Interactive. They do like kind of basing like pots of mod and stuff.
Right.
It's a bit like the what's it, like the Sterling battle mod that you get from Citadel, but it's in a pot that's like 15 times the size and half the price.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna get some of that and try and like kind of build it up and add lots of bits. So I'm kind of on lots of YouTube videos, and then I'm on like kind of lots of Model Railway and stuff like that sites, finding all the different bits and bobs and kind of static grass and things like that I want to pick up and kind of experiment with. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good little project, and as we've said, I've got enough armies to kind of keep me going until these are ready. But I have a feeling probably Northern Invasion. I'll take Seraphon. Potentially. I'll put potentially in there because, like you said, November's a long way away.
It's a long way. But yeah, I think I am really looking forward to the July, August one. And who knows what we will be doing, whether it will be in 2, 3, 2.5. I mean, we're still April, so it's still early, but I'm pretty sure last time it was around this time they started talking about GHB. So I'm not sure how much longer it is before we start to hear whether or not there's going to be a GHB, or because they brought out GHB alongside 2 last time, or did they?
Yes, they did. So AOS 2 actually came out on June the 30th. Why do I know that? Because that was my wedding day. Did I go to Games Workshop at 9 o'clock in the morning to pick up my stuff? No, because I was threatened with divorce before we'd even got married. But I did joke. I was like, I could go down and go pick it up now. And it's like, better not, actually.
Probably not.
So yeah, it kind of came out then. And we were joking that all of us were going to bring our copies of the GHB and kind of read them during the dinner time. Just get a photo of all of us like having a look and seeing what the changes were. But no, so yeah, it was end of June that AOS 2 came out, so yeah, it would kind of tie in with the same as what we've said earlier about end of June, beginning of July, AOS 3.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully we get something. It feels like with the whole... It would be a disappointment if Broken Realms finished and it didn't finish with a...
Wasn't it?
New version.
Yeah, I mean, we saw with 40k that they had almost a similar thing with Psychic Awakening, and then the new edition came out. So this kind of feels like the same thing, but we shall see. I'm sure next episode we will have more info and more details that we can probably discuss. But should we probably get out of here by now?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for everyone who's been listening, if you still are. If you want to catch us on Twitter and Instagram, Martin, you are
at martinswaffield,
and I am at Tales of Wargames. Don't forget we've got the YouTube channel, which is Tales of Wargames, and we're doing a lot more painting videos on there. We've also got our Tales of Crisis podcast on there as well, which is our Marvel Crisis Protocol podcast. So catch that if you're interested in that game. But like I said, we'll be back probably in a few weeks' time just to chat about a bit more. We're going to try and be a bit more regular with AOS content now that we're kind of returning back to normal life. But until then, we'll take care and we'll see you soon.
Indeed, goodbye.